But with 101 licensed dispensaries currently open and ultimate goal of 300, the state of Maryland is about to dramatically expand its cannabis industry as a result of a 2023 law. As of today, retail licenses are distributed equally across the state's 47 legislative districts, but another 75 are about to be issued in a social equity round, and the looming boom has been ruffling NIMBY feathers on both sides of the aisle. Maryland Matters' Brian Sears reported that when it's all said and done, there will be a maximum of 300 dispensaries with 6,500 liquor licenses in the state. Prince George County has 18.1 liquor stores per 100,000 people. That same county of roughly 1 million people is eligible for about 20 total cannabis dispensary licenses. And 19 of the state's 24 major political subdivisions will receive between 1 and 3 of those social equity dispensary licenses this coming round. Montgomery and Prince and PG counties will receive 9, and 11 will go to Baltimore City, according to Maryland Cannabis Administration. So the House and Senate panels in Maryland are considering legislation to make it tougher for local governments to restrict where dispensaries can locate. House Economic Matters Committee Chair Del C.T. Wilson, he ain't having none of that. He said the counties are trying to all out kill the newly legalized cannabis market and stifle the state's previous efforts to limit the trap's power. I honestly am sorry. I just don't trust counties to do it because I've watched what they've done before. What he's referring to is PG County Council's proposed legislation last year to prohibit dispensaries in commercial zones and restrict them to industrial areas and business parks. That bill failed, but the council, in a letter this month, asked the county's legislative delegation to oppose Wilson's new bill. Wilson blasted unnamed local officials for using what he called a, quote, tornado of misinformation to complain their counties will be flooded with dispensaries in the same way liquor stores have proliferated, or that the state law will allow vape and smoke shops to also sell cannabis. Makes no sense. It becomes irresponsible at some point of some of the county officials to propagate these lies, he said. The efforts of both sides are now the focus of legislation designed to block zoning attempts, which sometimes seek to prevent any sales of the drug, or are born out of the concerns about the clustering of alcohol and tobacco shops in Black and brown communities. When speaking on the state's entry to legal adult use cannabis sales, Wilson had to say this: "This was thought out. This was not done randomly, and this is not about state control. It's about protecting people, protecting us, and protecting a now legitimate business. So I want to make sure we understand that we are not here to stuff them or to cluster them." The House chairs bill, as the House chairs bill, HB 805 prohibits counties from imposing zoning regulations more restrictive than those imposed on retail liquor stores. Current law prohibits dispensaries within 500 feet of playground, recreational center, library, public park, or place of worship, and Wilson's bill qualifies that restriction to pre-existing facilities. HB 805 is, however, asking for an amendment to increase the distance between dispensaries from 1,000 to 1,500 feet. Counties can reduce but not increase the statutory distance requirements for dispensary locations. The beef opposing lawmakers have is all about usurping county zoning authority. They don't want to give up their power. Senator Brian J. Feldman, chair of Education, Energy, and Environmental Committee and sponsor of the identical SB 537, said the state has the same interest in ensuring cannabis dispensaries can open as it does ensuring counties allow clean energy protection. Democrat Senator Alonzo T. Washington out of PG County and member of the Senate Finance Committee said that we need energy. We don't need cannabis. This is excellent, man. Per the article, some legislators representing rural, most Republican counties like Delegate Stephen J. Arentz also opposed the proposed changes. He said counties like his are being punished for what's happened in others. Not so veiled, coded language here. You're taking other people's problems and making them ours. The bill has the support of Maryland Association of Counties, which is proposing certain amendments. The first will expand the minimum distance between dispensaries to 2,000 feet. Another wants to keep dispensaries more than 100 feet from residential areas. A lot going on over there in Maryland, and the crazy thing about all of this is the majority of these people fighting on both sides of the aisle are people of color, right? So for people who are not familiar with PG County, Prince George County in Maryland is both the most affluent and the poorest Black community at the same time in America. So there's a lot of Republicans and Democrats just butting heads right here, regardless of color. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, we're going to be covering it the whole way. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. Love to hear from you guys. What do you think about what's going on in Maryland?
Man, shout out to this. Is he a Republican or a Democrat? The guy that introduced this legislation. He's a Democrat. Shout out to this Democrat. I am a fan of this Democrat right here because he is trying to remove local control, which only stifles the growth of an industry, as we've all seen here in California and many other numerous states. So shout out and big ups to this man. See, Yarrow, I can talk good about Democrats.
I mean, I was just waiting for everybody else to get their first crack at the ball. I got a bunch to say, but I have three esteemed panelists above me on the screen, and I didn't want to just jump in.
Mm-hmm. I bet it's Monday, Yarrow.
Okay, fine. Okay, so like we've seen that this local control was a way to get buy-in for regulated cannabis programs. And we've seen the negative consequences of local control in other markets where local control could be more restrictive, not less restrictive. So this is interesting because they're saying the opposite. They're saying you could be less restrictive, not more restrictive. And we've seen this local control as a way to say that municipalities have a program, but then create the eye of the needle to be so small that the program isn't really practical. And we've seen local control where 3/4 of some of the largest cannabis economies in the world didn't have any brick and mortar retail dispensaries. And so then they wonder why there's this glut of product, or where farmers are dying because there isn't a supply chain that actually supports the amount of product that's being created, or consumer or patient access. So I love the idea of less local control because I've seen what local control has done in terms of comprehensive systems or systems that aren't really functional. And this notion of these very restrictive zonings creates real estate bubbles, creates a higher cost to the entrepreneurs that are successful enough in securing that real estate that qualifies. And I don't think it serves the industry. And so, yes, I get it. Okay, electricity and cannabis are not equivalencies, and everybody needs power. And some people need some powerful cannabis in their lives. And I really embrace this notion that counties can't create such local restrictions and complexity that it really it limits the impact of these programs. And when voters say, yes, we want to decriminalize, people should be able to go get this at a corner store or a store the way they can a bottle of whatever. It certainly, I don't think the will of the voter meant to create such restrictive zoning or pockets that it makes it really not an actual program. So I think this is great. I love it. Let's take away local control. There are lots of things where we don't have local control. I mean, look at everything the federal government does. That's not local control, but we all agree that stuff's still pretty darn important. So I'm in favor of this, of what's going on over there.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. I'm in favor too. Shout out to this guy, man.
I mean, I think that we all are. We're in the throes of the most complicated industry to navigate by far. I mean, it's the most regulated, it's the most red tape, I think, of any industry, even more than pharma, as far as I'm concerned. The way that we have to monitor every single tiny little leaf that comes off of this plant is crazy, especially since, Yarrow, it hasn't killed anyone.
Oh, jabs, little jabs. I see that. I see what you did there.
At the end of the day, this is something our whole industry advocates for, but we have to step out of our own little network circle in our industry and start educating the people around us who are voters that don't work in this industry, so that they understand we do not integrate the general public enough when it comes to cannabis policy creation.
Right.
And we really have to help these local municipalities understand that we're their allies, not their enemies. We're here to make sure that cannabis is safely accessible, but they don't need to over-police us out of fear.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you think on this,
Mic
Stone?
drop moment, Mandy. I love it.
What do you think about this, Stone? You're on mute.
I know.
There you go.
Monday, man, I couldn't find the mute button.
It's all right. We know.
I couldn't agree more. I got nothing else to say on top of what's already been said.
All right, all right. And joining us today, we have Hirish all the way from down under in Australia. He's been petting kangaroos in his koala den.
Woo!
Yes.
I absolutely have. It's your boy Irish, aka Medicated TV, and thank you for having me, guys. I love being here. Irish is in the building.
Yes, yes. Do you have any thoughts? You have any thoughts on this local control going on?
I was sitting here actually a bit perplexed. I almost felt like I was looking into a time glass, like into the future, thinking, just from Australia's perspective. Obviously, I'm in Australia, and I hope this doesn't happen to us because it looks like it's going to be going the same way.
Well, I mean, as if what we've seen going on in
Australia, pretty well happened to you guys.
Yeah,
it's happened to everybody the same exact way.
Where my immediate concern raises is with this whole state by state thing. See, we're very compartmentalized here as well. So, for example, we already have rec in one state, but not in the others. So it seems like you guys are going to have. It seems like we're just following your footsteps, which I don't know if that's the best move, to be honest.
I don't think that's the best move.
One thing you can count on is that nobody learns from the mistakes that have already been made. So
that's true.
Get ready.
That part is so true. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.